This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
The Apex Court confirms death for the three AIDMK men convicted of burning three girls alive in Dharmapuri in 2000. Relatives heave a sigh of relief. The court also raps the state police, asks why the police remained silent when students were being burnt alive by the mob. Outright violations of child rights on the streets of Chennai. Young kids seen cleaning sewers in the city. An oil tanker in Royapuram catches fire. More than 10 fire tenders pressed to service. Chennai Super Kings felicitate Muthaiya Muralidharan for his Super 800, tells NDTV Hindu he's too old for more records.
And the records all will come only about if you play another 10 or 15 years time. So I will be too old for that.
Hello and welcome to News Tonight on NDTV Hindu. I'm Ramanathan. Those are the top stories we're tracking. Let's take a look at the stories making national headlines. 7 policemen dead, 11 security personnel still missing after the 12-hour-long encounter with Naxals in Bihar. As Pakistan cricket hits an all-time low after the match-fixing scandal breaks, reports of money being seized from Pakistani cricketer. Sharad Pawar says no Indian is being investigated. The BlackBerry gives in to demands of the Indian government, gets 60 more days from the government for access. And another historical monument falls prey to the blatant neglect. Cracks develop on the Charminar due to rains. So, top story tonight: the final verdict is out on the brutal Dharmapuri student burning case. It was more than 10 years ago that this gory incident shocked the nation. A few AIDMK partymen, in a bid to appease the political bosses, went berserk in Dharmapuri. They torched a bus carrying students of the Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. 3 innocent girls, totally unconnected to this issue, were prevented from escaping from the bus and were burnt alive. The Supreme Court today gave its verdict in the case, upholding the death sentence awarded by the trial court and confirmed by the Madras High Court, calling the crime brutal, diabolical and cruel. This gory incident occurred 10 years ago on the 2nd of February 2000 in retaliation to AIADMK Supremo Jayalalitha's conviction in the Pleasant Stay Hotel case. The bus carrying 44 students of Tamil Nadu Agricultural University in Coimbatore was set on fire near Dharmapuri. 3 students, Kokilavani, Gayatri and Hemalata, were brutally killed in the incident. The Supreme Court today confirmed the death sentence given by a trial court to these 3 former AIDMK functionaries, C. Muniyappan, Nedunjayan and Ravindran. Justice delivered after 10 long years, but this Supreme Court verdict definitely is a big relief to the victims' families.
தீர்ப்பு லேட்டாக கிடச்சிருக்கு, 10 வருஷம் ரொம்ப லேட்டு. ரெண்டாவது 2-3 வருஷம் கிடைக்கும் எதிர்பார்த்தது, மகமாக லேட் ஆகுது. இதுக்காக ஒத்துழைச்ச கவர்மெண்ட்டுக்கும் அரசு ஊழியர்களுக்கும் மாணவர்கள் கோர்ட்டுக்கு சாட்சி சொன்ன மாணவர்களுக்கும் வக்கீல்களுக்கும் அனைத்து பேருக்கும் முதலில் நன்றி சொல்லியிருக்கிறேன். தீர்ப்பு இது எதிர்பார்த்த ஒன்று தான்.
It's been a long wait for justice for the families of these innocent victims, from the trial court's verdict to judgment by the Madras High Court, and now the Supreme Court's final say. It's been a decade of hoping and praying that these heartless rioters get their due punishment. The Supreme Court says this incident is shocking to the collective conscience of the society, and what is most shocking is the inaction of the police during this case. Slamming the Tamil Nadu police, the court said that it was clear that the so-called protectors of the society stood there and witnessed such a heinous crime being committed and allowed the burning of the bus and roasting of the innocent children without being reprimanded for failing in their duty. Political mobs claiming innocent lives is an ongoing phenomena in this country. It has taken 10 years for justice to be delivered in what can only be described as completely inhuman. But the families of victims can only hope that this relief is here to stay. The convicts in all probability will knock on the doors of the president for clemency, but it is hoped that the brutal murderers do not go scot-free. Bureau Report, NDTV Hindu. So, well, that's the big story of the day, and our executive editor Sanjay Pinto was earlier joined by panelists to discuss this gruesome incident and if the death penalty can really be the answer for such barbaric acts.
Arun, to you first. Mob violence. The Supreme Court now coming and castigating all those perpetrators and also the police department. Is it surprising because police departments in the country have come under the scanner, have been reprimanded by various courts in the country, not just for human rights violations, but also for standing and watching. Just recently in Tamil Nadu itself, they stood and watched one of their own men being hacked to death and nobody went even close by, even when there was a ministerial convoy there. So was this shocking at all?
Well, it is not really shocking because it's high time that someone, at least the courts, had to take cognizance of this. Because we have had several occasions when we had.
But this was cruelty. I mean, you had those girls trying to escape from that burning bus, and you had these goons preventing them from. They stood and blocked the door. These were, I mean, gory visuals still fresh in all our minds.
I know, but we have seen it because we have reported it at the time, and I still can't get over the fact that there are people there watching just the girls being burnt alive. And as protectors of the people, the police had the duty. They could have used force, which they didn't. They just stood around. It's really shocking that the custodians of law could allow such barbarism to take place.
Criminal negligence and dereliction of duty.
Actually, the court should have given even a stronger message down, because they are culpable. They have, by negligence, they have allowed 3 persons to be killed. So they should have been charged with negligence leading to murder.
Yes, let me bring in Mr. Sudha Rambalingam here. Ma'am, as a human rights activist, do you feel that the judgment, actually the court has actually, in a sense, while they have used strong words against the police officers, they have not really suggested any kind of action to be taken against them?
I suppose it's welcome that the conviction has been confirmed, but not indicating or calling upon the state to take necessary action against the policeman for dereliction of duty is something which is also very painful. The Supreme Court has the powers to ensure that the state takes action against all those responsible for such acts being done without being really stopped. As Arun rightly pointed out, the police could have used more force to ensure that such things do not happen. The violence could have been curtailed.
Yes, ma'am, the police used force.
Saved.
Yes, ma'am, the police used force even against physically challenged people and remove them from when they are even protesting. Why is it they couldn't use force in this case, ma'am?
Against even the police uses force against even silent protesters, as you rightly said, even against visually challenged or others. This only shows the recklessness of the police, the inaction of the police. They're not being responsible, as you also told in the beginning about how in the ministerial convoy, when there was a person who was dying, and they did not bother to even render help. There was not even water being given immediately. This really shows how the police has become very inefficient. And they are just not sensitive to the issues.
Ma'am, in this particular case, ma'am, it would have become a travesty of justice had the power of one not prevailed, ma'am. You had Veerasamy, one man, a father of one of the victims, Kokilavani, who took on the might of the state establishment. We know that files went missing. We know that witnesses turned hostile. It was difficult for all those students to actually withstand all that intimidation, to come out and give evidence of what they saw. But one man struggle, do you think time has come now, ma'am? It's long overdue that we had some sort of witness protection program in our country. Do you believe that the court in fact should have actually come up with something like that?
Exactly. Exactly, there should be witness protection programs, but what happens is witness protection programs is also capital intensive. The state will have to take on the responsibilities. In the West, you have witness protection programs to the extent of even ensuring that the person changes his identity if his life is at danger. And so there is so much of things to be done which are within the powers of the state. And not only that, we should not leave only the victim's family to fight fight for justice. There is a duty of cast upon the civil society or human rights activists, the media and others also, to take up such issues and ensure that there is a conviction and it takes it to the logical end also. There are two things which we'll have to talk about. One is prevention, another is also ensuring that justice is done by getting to know that there would be protection for the victims and perjury would be taken up seriously. These people who are responsible for the files being stolen or thrown off or lost, what action was taken against them? No action seems to be really taken against such people. If people can go scot-free by telling lies, perjury is not made a serious offense. The victims are not really protected. So people are afraid of coming to courts and there is a delay in the entire judicial system. So what happens when there is a big delay? People are afraid to come out and really keep repeating their statements.
I want to bring in the victim's father, Veerasamy, that the hero in fact of this whole case, who fought that relentless battle. Mr. Veerasamy in fact joins us from Salem there. If we can actually go across to Mr. Veerasamy. ஐயா, இது வந்து தாமதமான நீதி நினைக்கிறீங்களா? 10 வருஷத்துக்கு அப்புறம் இந்த மாதிரி தீர்ப்பு வந்திருக்கு.
தீர்ப்பு கரெக்டான தீர்ப்பு, ஆனால் லேட்டாக கிடைச்சிருக்கு. இவ்வளோ தூரம் லேட்டாக கூட கவர்மெண்ட்டுடைய எந்த ஒரு தீர்ப்பு விரைவில் வரணுங்கிறது என்னுடைய விருப்பம். தருமபுரியில் இலக்கியமட்டில் 2/2/2000 அன்று பட்டப்பகலில் 3 பேரை எரித்து கொலை செய்யப்பட்ட வழக்கு.
Harun, I mean, man obviously pain, but at least a little relieved that, there's some, justice done finally. But mob violence, in fact, various courts have come out strongly against mob violence. And this is perhaps, do you think this will be a deterrent at all? The Supreme Court, in fact, has said those who destroy public property should be made to pay for it. What about lives lost, Harun?
Mob violence is something which this kind of judgments cannot prevent, because it will happen. It will keep happening because we really don't have any kind of deterrent law. Even if there is a law, that is not implemented at all.
I mean, here in this case, do you think political parties have control over their followers? We know that Tamil Nadu, particularly Dravidian politics, is known for sycophancy, where people go all out, go to ridiculous or, in fact, preposterous extents to please their leaders. Even Ms. Jayalalitha, people used to prostrate before. They used to, in fact, write letters with their blood to her. There are people who have cut off their tongue and all that. But she has told them not to do such things. She said, don't do anything silly, don't write letters with your blood. So do you think it's possible for political leaders to actually control their followers in such situations?
It will be quite difficult, because you can have certain amount of restraint on the followers, but then always when in these kind of situations you get lumpen elements coming in. You can't do anything about that. This is really a case of the lumpen elements going loose. That's the thing. And
obviously it goes against these parties because it's going to be obviously a backlash, public opinion against it.
No, but again the problem is our memory is short, the public collective memory is short. That's the biggest problem. Right. Unless you have any kind of very strong deterrent law, make the party pay for it, whichever thing. In fact, we have a law here in Tamil Nadu which says that if a public property is damaged during an agitation or a procession, the political party concerned should pay for it, but it's never implemented.
Lives lost in this case thing. Let me go back to Mrs. Sudha Ramalinga. Ma'am, I know human rights activists will now shout from rooftops and say, why the death sentence? Are you also going to take that line, ma'am? Why the death sentence for this heinous crime?
Definitely, death sentence is not warranted at all in any case. The very principle or the philosophy behind any punishment is to reform and thereafter to also act as deterrence. Neither of it is served by giving death penalty.
Let me ask Mr. Veerasamy, ma'am. Just a second, ma'am. Let me go back to Mr. Veerasamy there in Salem. Aya, Manida Urumai Avalar Vande, Marana Dandanai Kudukudade, Ayul Dandanai Kuduknon Sodrang, Adapati Mukartena.
அவனுக்கு இருந்தால் அது உணர்வு தெரியுங்க. என்னங்க பட்ட மகளில் 11 மணிக்கு 3 பிள்ளை உயிரோடு இந்த டயரில் பெட்ரோலை ஊற்றிக்கிட்டு ஃபார்ம் அடித்து க்ளோஸ் பண்ணி பண்ணுறான். மனிதத்தன்மை என்ன மனிதத்தன்மை மாட்டுது? மனித உரிமை களவு என்ன? மனித உரிமை களவுங்கிறது பாதிக்கப்பட்டவனுங்க பாதுகாப்பாக இருக்கணும் ஒழிய அராஜகம் பண்ணனுக்கு எப்படி பாதுகாப்பாக இருக்க முடியும்? என்ன மனிதநீதி சொல்கிறீங்க? மனித உரிமை களவுங்கிறீங்க. அது மனித உரிமை களமாக அழகாமா? அப்படி இருந்தால் அது மனித உரிமை களமே அல்ல. எப்படிங்க அது மனித உரிமைன்னு ஏற்றுக்க முடியும்? என்ன உங்களுக்கும் அந்த பிள்ளைகளுக்கு என்ன சம்பந்தம்? யாரு நீங்க யாரு அவங்க யாரு? அவங்க டூர் போயிட்டு வருவாங்க, பிள்ளைய 15 வருஷம் வளர்த்துறதுக்கு எங்களுக்கு என்ன சிரமம் இருக்கும்? என்ன பிரச்சனைகள்?
obviously very pained there. Ma'am, do you want to reply to that? He says human rights activists should actually fight, defend the cause of victims, ma'am, not of offenders.
Yes, we do fight for the cause of the victims, but we also say that death penalty is not the remedy for anything. See, we'll have to be logical, positive, and also sensitive to the entire issues. This might be a different case, but by and large, we also know that there is a lot of flaws in the system. There have been cases where person has been punished with death penalty, and the person whom the offender is supposed to have murdered comes out alive. So there is a lot of problems in this. If you put a person's life to end, you can't bring that back.
Arun, in this case, yes ma'am, just one second, ma'am. Arun, in this case, let's say if the Supreme Court had commuted that to life imprisonment, we do know what a travesty of justice that would have been if after the sentence was commuted to life and then some political party for some political considerations on somebody's birthday releases them, does premature release, the power of remission is used. What will happen? What will go through the minds of such victims, families of victims, Arun?
I can understand very much Mr. Veerasami's angst in the whole matter of it. And it is true that we have the system of premature releases and the drop of the hat. Someone's birthday, someone's birth centenary, someone's death anniversary, we keep on releasing people. But what we should require now here in India is some law, change the IPC or CPC, whichever law, and then make it life means life, for life.
Like they have in the US, yes.
Yeah, like they have in
Not like the 14 years as is understood here in this.
When you are sentenced to life, you are sentenced to life with no parole.
Yes.
In instances like this, although I can imagine very well how Mr. Veerasamy and the other parents would feel.
Absolutely.
But a life for a life is not a solution.
Right.
What we need is a punishment which the perpetrator, the convict will regret for the rest of his life.
All right.
Slam him up inside. Don't let him out for the rest of his life.
All right, ma'am, sorry to have interrupted you there. Yes, you heard Mr. Veerasamy's anguish there expressed here on television here on prime time. Arun saying that, obviously talking about a law of 1860 vintage like the Indian Penal Code, we do need tougher laws, ma'am, and the laws today are too light and they let the accused go away scot-free.
No, I do agree with every one of them. I regret as much as Mr. Veerasamy for the death of these children and many others who suffer some murders or in such instances. But the whole thing is an eye for an eye would make the whole world blind. What we'll have to ensure is, like Arun said, ensure that death will be, life will only be life together till his lifetime. In Premananda's case, we ensured that there is no remission in his penalty. So what has happened?
In the US for a sexual offense was given some, I don't know, for 30 or 40 years imprisonment. Yes, ma'am.
No, he has got 2 life consecutive, no remission for him. If the Sessions Judge or the High Court Judge or the Supreme Court ensures that life would be life, no remission could be made applicable for this person, then it will not be available. So in any of these centenary celebrations or for a birthday or anything else, the political parties cannot, the ruling party cannot release them. So there are other systems built in wherein life could be life and ensure that these people reform. See, eye for an eye will only leave the world blind. I do not think that because of our sentiments, because of the entire sequence of events, we will want the other person to die. I don't think that's going to give any remedy. The purpose of the punishment should only be for reformation. He should definitely repent. He should be able to change his life. He should be able to convince others not to do this. Just simply taking away his life, I don't think is going to be causing any good. One. Secondly, there could be also punishments of death, given a capital punishment on a wrong premise too. We do not know. So such instances are there. There are examples about it. So why should we go in for a death penalty? Let's stick to life, and life for life would be entire life. It will not be any remissions. We could even say no paroles for these fellows.
clearly no end to that raging debate there on that death penalty for such barbaric acts. Moving on, also on our special segment, Writing on the Wall, something about this Dharmapuri tragedy and the subsequent verdict, the Supreme Court verdict. Let's take a look at what Divya Kumar has for us.
Guess what is the issue that is being discussed on Writing on the Wall today? Sriram Suresh says, it took over a decade to deliver justice for the victims of the Dharmapuri student burning case. When it comes to poor and needy, the law always takes a long route. We will not change our ways. Justice delayed is justice denied. Very well, a lot of media persons have also started discussing this, and if you have your take on any of the newsy things happening around, you can send it to feedback@ndtv-hindu.com or even write on our NDTV Hindu account on Facebook, and we'll feature it on our channel.
Well, time to hit a short break, but on the other side of the national news, and NDTV Hindu exposes a shocking case of child labour as children cleaning the dirty sewage on the streets. More on the other side. And an oil tanker in Roypuram port catches fire. Stay with us for the details.